Hey, what's going on, everybody? So today I am going to do a weekly check-in, and this is going to be for the first week of contest prep for me. I'm starting a 19-plus week contest prep. I have some shows outlined that I would like to do. This is my first time doing it in a long time, and it's my first time doing it by myself. So these shows are loosely picked out, and I'm just going to see my response and do my best to come in shape. I may be consulting some professionals along the way, people who would kind of have an idea of if I'm on the right track and how I'm looking, and, people I can run ideas by. So I will be doing that as well. Excuse the planes. I live near an airport, so sorry about that. So I'm just going to take you through what I'm currently doing for the time being, how I've started this contest prep, and the plan that I have laid out. So actually, let me pull up this Google Doc here. Sorry. I forgot I was going to reference this. I have a Google Doc that I've been working on for months now, basically. That is just my plan for this whole contest prep. So, pick my shows, potentially qualify if I can, determine my body fat, and then what my lean body mass might be. So I'm probably going to be lean body mass 225, 230. If farm doesn't affect that too much, anabolics don't affect that too much. Got a DEXA scan already. Determine how much body fat and weight I need to lose, blah, 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 blah. Select target rate of loss, and discuss and consult farm with professionals. So I have roughly 34 pounds to lose, and I have roughly 19 weeks to do so. And what one of my coaches had explained to me before is that with anabolics involved, the weight can do some funky things sometimes, but at the end of the day, you can't override thermodynamics. Meaning, if my water weight is up, but I'm still in my calculated deficit, it doesn't matter. I will still be losing body fat. I just need to be aware of some of that noise that can be created by anabolics and water retention via the renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, and things like that. So, I need to be aware of that. As we'll get into in my actual check-in this week, my weight, even as the last couple of days, has been kind of up, but that could just be the increase in anabolics. So, my maintenance kcals are 4,800. I want to go for a 1.2% rate of loss per week for this first 4 weeks. So that's what I've calculated out. The way I found this deficit is I want to lose 3 pounds per week. A pound of body fat is roughly 3,500 calories, 3,500 kilocalories. So I multiplied 3,500 times 3. So how many calories in a pound of body fat times the 3 pounds I want to lose. That got me, whatever that got me, 12,000 something, whatever. I divided that number by 7, how many days in a week, and I got my daily deficit as a result. My daily deficit being 1,560 kcals. So I'm at 3,300 kcals per day. I have my macros here: 250 protein, 405 fat, 75 grams protein. 450 carbs, 75 grams of fat, 250 protein. Protein is 250 because when you're on anabolics, it makes protein more efficient. So I can raise it up just for satiety, and I may actually do so, but I want to keep a good buffer for these carbohydrates. Fats are at 0.3 grams per pound. I will try to keep them there as long as I can until I am having trouble pulling calories, and I will keep my carbs as high as I can, and that's the rest of the calories. Maintenance is going to be actually a slight deficit. So this is what I'm going to pull to on my deloads. Slight deficit for my actual true maintenance currently, but that will become a slight surplus as contest prep goes on. That way I can alleviate fatigue induced by dieting a little bit better when I decide to bring my calories up to maintenance on deloads, and when I do some high-low days when I get closer to the show. Here I mentioned that, let me make this a little bit bigger for you guys. Here I mentioned that my sodium is remaining constant, added to food. Run maintenance or slight surplus 2 to 4 days when diet fatigue begins to affect sleep and gym performance every 7 to 14 days. So I'm just keeping an eye on diet fatigue. As I get closer, I will incorporate more of these days at maintenance. Signs of diet fatigue: extreme hunger that affects training performance, fatigue unrelated to training, water retention outside of PED adjustments, weight holding still despite food and activity adjustment, and sleep quality starts to decline. And then here I just have my exact plan all the way up to the show. This is the rate of loss that I want, how much I need to lose roughly, when I'm doing maintenance phases, my rate of loss for each phase roughly, and then PEDs too. PEDs is a loose outline. This is going to be auto-regulated. So I could really just go into it and not have a plan, but I like to having this loose skeleton outline of when I will make adjustments. And I may just make adjustments and then decide how those adjustments make me look and how they make me feel and all that good stuff, and auto-regulate them after I've implemented them. But I like having the skeleton outline just because I've never done this. This is new territory to me. I'd rather have these things in place and then adjust as I go or as I see fit, as I do blood work and things like that. So it just kind of provides me peace of mind having this all written out. But basically the first first meso, I personally probably would have ran cruising dosage or sports cruising, but I am running a pretty aggressive deficit here, so I think it'd probably be smart to just keep a low amount in and just monitor my blood work as the time goes on. It is a long amount of time, but actually last year I made sure, and obviously this is really justification for it, but I made sure that I took a really long time off, knowing that if contest prep got, I needed to make a decision and have a health trade-off, that at least I wasn't exposing myself to a lot of stress when I didn't have to. So I decided to actually lower that stress last year. And now, obviously, there's some stress, but I'm starting with lower dosages. I'm going to monitor my blood work, make sure I'm healthy. My blood work actually recently checked out pretty well otherwise, so not too concerned walking into this phase. And then it's just kind of a loose outline when I'm going to deploy this, when I'm going to deploy that. I'll get into all that stuff for you guys. Here's some of my notes on how I decided the rate of loss, decision tree, some example PED, and my DEXA scan. So here we have my data collection. Here we have this most recent week. So I started actually on Sunday, started the deficit just as I was ready to get into it. I was excited to start contest prep. Big drop here. I had a large amount of steps here. And then my weight actually crept up a little bit. But I did implement a PED adjustment here. So I could be getting some water retention from that as well. So I'm not too concerned about that. I'm just going to kind of watch how it goes over the week. Not stress out too much. One thing I will say is my hunger has been pretty crazy lately, as of late. And usually when I make an adjustment, it does get kind of crazy. Even right now, I feel a lot better, actually. But man, those first couple days were pretty rough. Here I have my macro tracking tab. I will be putting those in later this week. I just don't feel the need to right now. I'm tracking on my phone via Chronometer right now. I like Chronometer because it tracks micronutrients. Here is just the starter prep. I need to put a weight average in here. But track my steps. I'm going for 12,000 on average a day. And I'm going to do more circumference measurements. I just wasn't liking the caliper measurements I have up here. So I'm making sure my waist is coming down and my arms and thighs and extremities are staying similar. Blood pressure. That's interesting. It was lower than this week. I don't know why I put it in there. This is also the 213. It was actually like 120 over 63, I believe, or something earlier this week. So pretty cool to have that in range now, and it's only going to get better as I lose body fat. So super cool. I'm probably going to have to implement more telmisartan in the next offseason and maybe a beta blocker to keep myself safe. But I'll cross that road when we get there. Heart rate good, fasting blood glucose good, and compliance is kind of not last week, just because I was trying to eat some fun food and stuff like that. Hunger was pretty high. I need to go fill all the rest of that in. I'm a little backlogged on that stuff right now, but the gist of it's there. PEDs. So I was cruising. I pulled L-carnosine earlier this month. So I just implemented it back in. So now I'm going a 1-to-1 ratio of primobolan and testosterone, keeping my GH the same, telmisartan the same, and 200 milligrams of injectable L-carnitine pre-workout. Injectable L-carnitine helps with beta oxidation, fatty acid mobilization, and it can help with a number of things, energy and fat mobilization, fat loss, things like that. I definitely noticed an energy benefit and a small recomposition benefit from it as well. So I'm going to keep it in for now. There's ways that it deficit gets more aggressive. I'll implement more and to see if there's any benefit. Macrocycle I need to go in and put, but that was on that other Google Doc. And then here we have, this is my last lab work. So most things were within range. I'll go through every individual thing here. And I marked the things that are out of range on with red. The creatinine wasn't out of range. It was like 1 point below it. But it's just now that it's crept up a little bit. And I'm watching for trend lines here. It's crept up a little bit over time. And I mean, on average, maybe it was just high from training or whatever. I will get a cystatin C to check because this is a lagging indicator. Muscle damage can kind of cloud up this number. So cystatin C would be a better reference. Not super worried. My kidney health is probably fine. But, I just want to keep an eye on those things. And that's why I have this spreadsheet. So I'll run a more comprehensive test that isn't affected by muscle tissue, muscle damage next time. And then we'll see how that's looking. AST in range. ALT is slightly out of range. Not super worried. Again, probably from training. GTT has crept up over time. This is, I can't remember what the actual marker is. I have to go back. But definitely something I want to keep an eye on. The reference range for this is pretty forgiving in the United States. And again, we're looking for any increases and changes over time here. And that one's kind of creeping up within range, far within range, but something that I have been advised by some professionals that I should keep an eye on. Estrogen, this wasn't, I marked here as not an ultra-sensitive test. Estrogen may have been higher. It usually is on a cruise, but not super concerned about that. If I was doing subcutaneous administration, so maybe that affected it. And obviously that was on a cruise, so 924 seems appropriate for my testosterone levels. Didn't have free test on this panel. DHEA, slightly lower, but within the reference range. I supplement with DHEA and pregnenolone because those are neurosteroids. They get shut down when you administer exogenous hormone. So it might be smart to actually have them towards the top end of the reference range. Some people get them at the bottom end, but on exogenous hormones, it might be smart to keep those up. Prolactin wasn't on this test. Iron creeping up a little bit. Probably incorporate more IP6 because that just increases my hematocrit hemoglobin, stuff like that. SHBG still low. TSH, T4 in range. PSA wasn't on this test. HA1C 5.1, good. Glucose okay, under 100. Insulin 2.1. I just rarely ever have high insulin, which is awesome, meaning that my pancreas is in a good spot. This can be, you can be waking up doing your fasted blood glucose and it can be in reference range and then your insulin's really high. So that's why it's not a great indicator for insulin resistance. Actually getting a fasted insulin and HA1C and then kind of getting an idea of the actual picture going on behind the scenes is better because your body can be putting out more insulin, trying to keep your blood glucose in range. And then when you do a lagging indicator like your blood glucose, it can be in range, but your insulin's through the roof. And that can cause a number of problems, like type 2 diabetes down the road. These were really high. I was a little concerned about this. Again, this does not equate to blood viscosity. A lot of people will tell you that it will. I'll link Stan Efferding's video below that explains why it's not linked to blood viscosity. It is blood volume to some extent, but it's not also affecting my blood pressure, so not concerned about that. As long as your platelets are in range, which mine were, it does not actually equate to viscous blood, and GGT and ferritin are in range, then you are probably not to be too concerned. And obviously, I'm not a doctor. Take that with a grain of salt. I still went and donated blood after this because it was pretty high. And I donate every 2 months just regularly because it is always high. Donating will only keep it temporarily outside of that, and then it's just going to go back up. So it's one of the trade-offs that are made this is hemoglobin here. One of the trade-offs that are with bodybuilding, unfortunately. HCl and LDL. I was hoping that back on this. I was hoping that telmisartan was going to help with this problem. Maybe it's just longer you're exposed to it, it'll help a little bit more, but we'll have to see. I'll keep doing blood panels and see if it works and helps. Weight loss might help with that as well. HCl came up, which is to be expected because I'm off, but at least it's at 30. It's not great, but it's not absolutely in the gutter and non-existent, like it was when I was working with this coach here. But this isn't out of the reference range. I just marked it as red to keep an eye on it. LDL may be an indicator. I need to get, I'll mark this here. I need to get an APOB test to check. APOB is one of the ways to assess cardiovascular risk. That's not LDL, or it is a form of LDL, but it's a better way to assess if your LDL is potentially harmful. So just get that test. Otherwise, I think this is a great panel for a bodybuilder. It sucks that some of these things are in the reference range, but I hope as I lose weight that maybe some of them will come into the reference range and we'll be okay. But overall, pretty healthy. I will probably be taking a long period off, like 2 months plus, after this show, just because of how long I've been exposing myself, obviously on and off, but, don't want to be exposing myself for too long. And then here we have photos. I just forgot to delete these ones below. Definitely a little bit chunky from my maintenance phase and off season, but it's okay. I have an idea of where I need to go. Not super worried about it. Definitely love the shape and the muscle I've been able to build. This is actually from earlier last year. You can actually see the amount of muscle everywhere that I built. I was shoulders, arms, lats, legs, just simply everywhere, back, hamstrings, all that stuff. And obviously it'll show more as I lose my body fat. And then I need to update my diet here right now. I'm just doing macro tracking right now. Excuse me. I'll give you guys a glimpse into that later next week. As I usually what I do is I decide on my macros, and then I follow a vertical diet, so I structure those foods in first: the steak, eggs, red meat, whole eggs, cranberry juice, all the veggies that are lower gas. I'll put all those in first, and then I may have some fun stuff. But I found that I just like having the potatoes and oatmeal and the higher satiety carbohydrates in there all the way through. So it's top around steak most of the way, having some added fats via cheese, maybe some peanut butter here and there. I'm just kind of playing around with potatoes and oatmeal for my carbs, pretty much only. Maybe some rice cakes I'll get, or 45-calorie bread as extra later. And then strawberries for fruit. Any mixed berry, I love berries, and those are higher satiety. Strawberries are very low kcal per gram, and raspberries are very high satiety. Any berry, blueberries is another one I eat a lot. I mean, a lot of Greek yogurt, 4 whole eggs. Top round steak is pretty lean. It's actually about as lean as chicken breast, so I will not switch to chicken breast at any point because the micronutrients become really important, especially as you're very low calorie. So I think it's silly. It's weird that more competitors don't use top round steak. It's really lean. It's as lean as chicken breast. Most people eat chicken breast into the show and eat a bunch of peanut butter. It's you have this nutrient dense source that you can keep all the way into the show. That's great. You can get it for really cheap at Costco. It's $4 a pound. So even price point, it's about the same as chicken breast, a little bit more expensive if that. And then otherwise, just lots of veggies, zucchini, lots of romaine, salads towards the end of the night. Distributing some. Well, I train in the morning, so a good amount of carbs around the workout. Then I might actually have a gap in the midday and then more at night, just so that I'm satiated, because I know I get really hungry at night. So honestly, that's pretty much it. All I have to share with you guys this week. Pretty much from now, it's just executing the plan and then auto-regulating based on feedback and all the data that I'm collecting. So I hope you found this helpful, and I'm going to continue to do these once a week or every other week. Probably for now, every other week until I get into the show and get closer to the show. As the changes will be kind of subtle here, and they'll get more pronounced as I move on throughout contest prep. So hope you guys enjoyed watching the video.